Welcome to this tutorial about Component Studio. Today I'm going to show you a little bit about what Component Studio is and what it can do for you. So let's get started. Component Studio is a tool that can take a bunch of data that you have about your game, and if you plug it in the right way and massage it a little bit, it can generate your cards for you on the fly and also regenerate your cards or components for you if you have any data to update, and it makes it really simple and really quick. So let's get started here. So let's make a new project called test and add it here. Let's make that the active project, so this is the one we're going to be working on. And let's go to Datasets. So notice that we're working on the test dataset. So let's make a new dataset for test. Call it test cards. Okay, we'll add it. So now this is our empty dataset for test cards. And what we're going to do is just let's add a row. So this is the simplest or the most direct way of adding data to Component Studio. So if we add a row here, let's call it test 1, maybe add another row, call it test 2, and maybe another one called draft. Okay, so that is a very simple data set. This is saying the first column is always quantity. That means how many of this is going to be in your game. This is mostly used for exporting to the game crafter or something, or print and plays, so it's handy. The name is just the name of the thing, and we can also, let's add a column. So let's say it's points. Okay, so it gives us a new column here. So test 1, how many points is that worth? Let's make it 1. Test 2 can be worth 2, and a draft can be worth 5 points. So once we've finished our data set, or made it as complete as we want it for now, we can go into our designs, and let's make a design out of this. So let's name this cards. Project test, that's what we're working on. And this is neat. So by default it gives you a bunch of different sizes, basically, of things to work on. So a poker deck by default is this many pixels, dimensions at 300 dpi. This is saying what type of backs do we want on the cards. I won't go on that. And then this is the data set that we are using. So the only one that we have right now is test cards, so we're going to use that one. So let's create the design, and that'll immediately bring us into the designer. So let's just get a little bit of our bearings here. So the top left here is changing which component we're actually looking at, so it'll show all our cards that we have designed in our data set, and we can go through those. This will show us the front and the back of the card, and then whether or not we want to show the overlay, the red and the blue lines. So let's just let's show the text and show the number of points. So first we're going to add some text. There we go, and it gives you some default text. Let's get rid of all this. So there we go. After a second, it updates. So the markup here for Component Studio variables will be shown like this in these curly braces. If you look down at the bottom here, here's all our variables from our data set. So they all have a $sign in front of them. So if you put that inside some curly braces, it's going to show you the name from our data set. So if we go back to our data set, remember that it was called giraffe in the name column. So let's go back to that design. So there we go, and if we click through these, it'll show us the other names. Now say we want it into a different place, we can center it, and we can maybe make it a little bit bigger. Let's see, maybe 150. There. So now I have some bigger text, and won't get into fonts right now. So say that's a little bit too high up. Let's just add there. So there we go. That's a good spot for it. So now let's, if we open up this advanced tab, we can add this outline. That'll show us what the actual size of this text box is, and notice it's going way off the bottom. So we'd probably want to make this a little bit bigger here, even more. Let's just make it total 200 tall. So there we go, and maybe center this. So this center me Y and center me X means it's centering it on the card. So notice if I don't have any changes to it, it's right there. So maybe instead I just want to have this at 300. And remember that our card is 825 by 1125. So that'll give you an approximation on where to put it. So maybe just a little bit higher. That's a good spot, I think. So we can go through our cards and those all look good. Let's remove that outline. Let's see, that's good. Let's add another text box. So after we've added that, we can collapse it. We don't really need the details here. Let's just call this name. That'll help us to remember what this step is. So each step is a different thing that is going to be rendered on your card. So let's add another text box called points. Notice it adds the default text here again. So let's get rid of all this stuff and let's just use points. So this draws the number that's in our points column in the data set. Remember, giraffes were 5. And then this just literally writes the word points. So I think we'd want that somewhere down here. So to put that there, let's center it. And then let's put it way down on the bottom. So let's make the points a little bit bigger, maybe 100. And then let's make the height 150. And then let's make the wide 800. So there we go, now it's on the bottom. Maybe we probably should have the points be red. Oops. I was in the wrong one. There we go. So tab off that. There we go, now it's red. So that gives you a little bit of color here. Now there's quite a few other things that we can do. Let's say we want these to be spaced out a little more. Or opacity changes how visible it is. So if you have an opacity of 0, it's going to be invisible. Opacity of 100 is totally visible, and anything in between is partially visible. And we can also rotate this. So let's maybe make this go 45 degrees, so they'll be at an angle. There you go. And there are a few other things that we can do, like conditionally rendering. So say we only want the points to show up if there's more than 1 point. Let's say 1 is the default, so we don't want it to show up if it's 1. So we can copy that. So let's say when points is greater than 1. So that says this text box will only show up if points is greater than 1. So giraffes have 5 points, so that's good. But test 1, oh, points is 1, so it's not going to show up. And test 2 has 2 points, so that shows up. So that's just kind of the most basic overview of how to use data sets and get some text onto your game. Now, let's say we're done with this. Let's go back to the designs. But before that, let's say this is a card that we just want to share with somebody. So let's export the image. So there's a little button right here. Just download current image. And there we go. That's downloaded now to my computer. So I can share that with somebody. Or if we go back to the designs, we can export the entire thing if we click this drop down. There's lots of different options here. So duplicate is self-explanatory. The Component Studio design file is used for sharing with other people. Export images as zip. That'll give you a zip file with all of the images inside it. You can export a PDF of all the images that you can just print out and cut out the cards. And then Tabletop Simulator Cache, that'll give you an image in a format for Tabletop Simulator for easy import, and then export to the Game Crafter. If you haven't heard of the Game Crafter, go to thegamecrafter.com and make some games. It is crazy awesome. So let's just export this as zip, and we'll see what we get. So in a few seconds that'll pop up. And all our images are in here. So that's the most basic overview. I will get a little more in depth in another video, but I just wanted to show the most basic of features that can be used for Component Studio. If you have any questions on anything, feel free to leave a comment. Otherwise, I'll see you soon.